welcome back to the Card Pool. I'm your host, Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And today we are taking a solid look at the hidden gems in Coldsnap.
Yes, this is, of course, part one of our two-part look at the hidden gems of Coldsnap. We're starting from 10 and working our way all the way up to number 6 on both of our lists
We're going to be trucking on through all the snow, so bring your winter jacket in and hold on tight.
And I really don't like the snow, but I do like this set.
Yes, and also part of the reason we're looking at this one is because the new set to come out soon,
Kaldheim. I think you're going for Kaldheim.
No, I said it right. It has a bunch of stuff that involves snow permanents, and this set is actually the third installment, if I'm correct, for the cycle they originally had with all the cold sets.
It was, yes. Back when they first made the very first few rounds of Magic sets, there was the ones like Alliances and the Dark, and then Coldsnap is a thematic successor to those.
Yeah, but there was the other one that we also saw like Snowlands and everything else for.
Well, I'm sure we'll go over that at some point as well. I know we will.
All right, but either way, we'll start off at number 10, and I'm going to take lead if that's all right.
Go ahead.
For this lovely dance. So at my number 10, we're looking at a card called Rhymewind Taskmaster. Now, this is a creature that has 2 mana and it's cost 1 generic and an island for a human wizard with a 1/2 body. And for 1 mana, we can go ahead and tap this guy, and what it does is you can go ahead and tap or untap target permanent. And you can only play this ability if you control 4 or more snow permanents. So this is a really powerful effect in Magic, being able to tap or untap anything. And it's really good to make it so you can go ahead and enable infinite combos or be able to get around certain rules on certain cards. One of the more infamous ones that we see is typically, well, what's the one that makes it so your lands don't untap, Kyle?
Yeah, well, like Icy Manipulator.
Well, no, not the Icy Manipulator. The one that you just sit out there and everyone, as long as it's not tapped, everyone can't tap more than 1 land per turn.
Right, Winter Orb, that's what it is. That's what I was thinking of.
So this is something that's good to make it so you can play some nasty artifacts or anything like that, and provided that you can go ahead and tap them whenever you want, you get around this effect. However, the matter of this card is that the snow permanents. You don't see a lot of them. We're getting more of them, and even still, some of them are on instants and sorceries.
However, there are snow basic lands, which if you're playing any amount of snow cards, you should probably just replace all your basic lands with snow lands, because there's really no point not to.
Yeah, it's refreshing mana. Ice cold.
That being said, this card is, I'm not in particular like a fan of these, tap or untap sort of cards. However, as you said, there is combo potential here, as with anything that can, tap or untap itself, essentially.
Well, it also, it gets around certain rules, actually, which is kind of interesting. In Esper, I can't remember the name of I think it's Marit Rebrit is the name of the commander, where it's like if you take a permanent and taps her. However, if you go ahead and you untap her from another effect, you still keep the permanent, and then you can use her effect again. These are the kind of cards that you would use for a deck like that to be able to go ahead and get around certain things. So there is very little spots where it's like, if you know the ruling and the wording, you can get huge advantages. So this is why this card made my list.
I still think it's sort of low impact. However, I will say one thing that is interesting about it is that it can, therefore, belongs in a snow deck, can untap things. It works with the new 3-color Snow God that turns into the staff. Yeah. You can play snow cards from your graveyard by tapping it.
Yeah, it works
So
out.
It does play around well with that. So that's positive.
Good card to note of if you're thinking about making a deck for that future set. So now, coming out to your number 10, Kyle, what do you got?
All right, well, I got a weird one with a wall of text. Number 10 for me is Balduvian Warlord. This is a 3/2 human barbarian for 4 mana. And it has simple 1 ability, but not so simple to read. Tap it. Remove target blocking creature from combat. Creatures it blocked that no other creature blocked this combat become unblocked. Then it blocks an attacking creature of your choice.
What?
Exactly. Play this ability. Oh, you're not finished yet. Play this ability only during the declare blockers step.
I could have written that better, and I am horrible at writing and reading and speaking.
Basically, think about it. This can, you know how a card like Maze of Ith, removes attacking creatures from combat?
Sure.
This removes blocking creatures from combat. So anything that creature was blocking then is no longer blocked.
So, all right, so it pretty much makes it so that damage is going to swing on through. And That's
Right.
waste.
However,
Oh
yeah,
my
and then
goodness.
the creature that you took out of combat then blocks a different creature, whichever one you want. So you can change blockers
That's
around.
actually very cool
No,
and
like
very
this is like
important.
for a red card especially, like this actually goes into a surprising amount of decks.
And this is so it's good for a variety of things. It changes how people want to attack you, which in red, they have a whole bunch of things to goad, make target creature attack, even if it doesn't want to. Now it has the other way to kind of make it so it pierces through, and usually blue's the one with the evasion or black. So being able to get that to red is solid, but also this kind of plays as spot removal, because if you have another creature coming through that it would not want to block because it would die, whoops, you slipped and are in this lane now, my friend,
Exactly.
and good luck.
It kind of does, and it's kind of really cool. This is a very, very weird card. Makes for some really nightmarishly confusing combat steps.
100%. And again, if you know the rules and you can explain it, sure, every player will have to go ahead and trust you. They're all going to bring out their phones, bring up TCG Player, MTG, whatever, and try to be like, yeah, I think you're saying
But honestly,
the right
for a
thing.
card that I had never heard of before us reviewing this set, for most aggressive red decks, I feel like they could really use a card like
Oh
this.
my goodness. Yeah, especially Voltron. As long as you have another creature out there attacking with it, you can take all the splendor.
Yeah, so it's, again, very surprising that I don't hear more about this
Yeah,
card. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, it's decent. Pretty decent. Now, moving on to my German no, that is 9. I'm going to be talking about a card called Gutless Ghoul. Ooh, thank you, Kyle, for
Yeah,
getting
no
one of the
worries.
Squishy Splash extras. So this is a snow creature. It costs 3 mana, 2 generic, and a swamp for a snow creature zombie. Woohoo! It has a 2/2 body with an effect for 1 generic mana. You can go ahead and sacrifice a creature, and if you do, gain 2 life. Now this is high up on my list because Black has tons of stuff to go ahead and sacrifice creatures, and they're usually free. And those effects usually are a lot more powerful than gaining 2 life. However, this is on my list because you gain 2 life and you're in black. Mono black could gain some life without having to use an artifact or anything else for that and play into its own synergies. You don't find many cards that are like this. However, it is a creature. What it means it can sack itself. It will cost mana. But again, you can recur it from the grave and everything else like that. It's kind of unique, kind of interesting. And again, if you're going with something that cares about snow permanence, this is one of them.
Definitely, and with the snow cards now revolving around the graveyard a lot with our new god, as I mentioned earlier, this could be even potentially better. I mean,
Hallowed is his name.
Is it the greatest zombie or is it the greatest sword of this card ever made? No,
No.
of course not. But it could be a potential useful role player in a number of different decks, really. I mean, if you're looking for an okay zombie, this certainly fits the bill.
Yeah, and how much life does Black pay? Every life it has to use any effect it wants. So being
Yeah.
able to kind of save yourself just a drop is not bad. But moving on to your number 9, Kyle. What do you
All right,
got?
well, we're going to keep it in black for my number 9. We're
Hey.
going with the first legend of the set, Hakon, Stromgald Scourge.
Yeah, this is a card you've seen.
I love this guy. So he's a 3-mana, 3/3 zombie knight legend. You can play Hakon from your graveyard, but not from anywhere else.
It's so goofy that
As long as he is in play, you can then play knight cards from your graveyard. When he's put into a graveyard from play, you lose 2 life. This is extremely frustratingly not really commander material in terms of
is?
being in the command zone. You could, I mean, you can do it now with the ability to, you know, transfer commanders from the command zone to your hand. However, you probably don't want to just build your deck around only doing that, unfortunately.
All right, so like you have Phage and you have this guy, right?
Right.
Both are extraordinarily complicated to make it so your deck can be efficient. However, Black uses all the best tutors. So you could make this deck. It's just not a budget deck. It's the only problem with
it's
that.
you have to jump through a lot of hoops. However, I think that I really wish we had a lot more cool legends like this because this plays in a very interesting sort of open-ended space. You may look at this and say, oh, you know, playing knight cards from your graveyard, like this is a knight tribal thing and it's nothing else. That's actually not entirely true.
Oh yeah, how?
I mean,
But that's how I take it.
think about the changeling cards, and two, think about the removal spells and non-creature spells that have changeling creature types.
So there's the inversion?
Nameless Inversion and Crib Swap are the two main ones that I think of. Think about playing those from the graveyard as many times as you want.
But
that sounds pretty good to me.
Crib Swap's white, though, is the only issue. So if you're running this as a commander, that wouldn't work. But again, if you're saying 99, which is what you are saying...
You're at least running it in white-black, which is the color pair that Knights are most usually found in. Maybe there's another one gets added in there. So Mardu Knights are a thing as well, I know. So yeah, this is definitely a tribal card, but it can be so much more than that.
This is 100% the Monty Python card. This is 100% the Black Knight trying to triumph being dead.
Definitely.
Like 100%. And the flavor on that is 100% real. Yeah, and I mean, we will probably get some other things to interact with, like commanders in the zone. Like we've only had before was Command Beacon, and that was the only way to do it, and that was the land. Now we have a black artifact. Go ahead, you can go ahead and use this effect over and over again. So what's the chance of us getting something else that could be something to make this guy realistic?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to see how happy Wizards is when they look at this card next time. But moving on to my number 8, card that Kyle's gonna just totally be like, why is this on the list? My number 8 is a card called White Shield Crusader. It costs 2 mana, double white for a human knight with a 2/1 body. It is pro-black, and it has 2 effects, one for 1 planes, and it reads that this creature gains flying until the end of the turn. And if you go ahead and play double white for this, it goes ahead and gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn.
So I'm going to stop you right there, Stu, and I'm going to just ask you, you can be honest with me. Did you pick this because there was just really nothing else to pick in this set? Because that was the only way that would explain this.
No, actually
this is such a piece of garbage.
That is, first of all, you bite your tongue. First, it's a night card, which you were just screaming about there.
But not even a good one, though.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Come on.
Let's bring the card back up real fast so we can really see what's going on here. So it's got protection from a color, and a strong color at that. So that's something to note for one. The second one, the flying, sure, that's nothing too crazy, and that's not really the reason you look at this. The second line, what is that effect like that we see in Magic?
I mean, pretty much any anthem you can think of,
No,
I guess.
it's fire breathing, which is what we see with dragons. White having a fire breathing effect. You don't see that. Not really. No, it has anthem effects. It has pump effects. It does not have a fire breathing effect. Now, again, you can argue, yes, that usually costs 1 mana. Sometimes it costs 2. It being out of color, sure, let's say that the cost is going to be skewed. But this is a little guy that can come out and swing big. White Weenies is a deck. This is something to go ahead and make it so it's an evasive white weenie. And, I mean, it's just odd. That's why it's higher on the list. It's number 8. I think it's a little bit more to note just for its oddity.
I still think you were hard-pressed to find a pick, but whatever. I'll give this one to you.
You stole one of my cards. I'm a little upset about it. But whatever. Going on to your number 8, Kyle. It's nothing too crazy, my number 8.
All right. Well, mine here is going to be actually a multicolored card for the first time on this list. Vanish into Memory. Now, this is a white and blue instant that costs 4 mana to play. Remove target creature from the game, or exile target creature, as it would be written now. You draw cards equal to that creature's power. At the beginning of your next upkeep, return that card to play under its owner's control. If you do, discard cards equal to its toughness.
Interesting.
Yeah, the reason I like this card so much is because it's one of those cards that is equally valid both offensively and defensively. On the offensive side, you could blink your own creature to repeat some kind of ability, save it from destruction because it comes back at the end of your next at the beginning of your next upkeep, or to just draw some cards and gain some life, or you can use it defensively to get rid of an opponent's creature for a turn and still draw some cards and gain some life.
Yeah, it's very interesting for how that works because also, yeah, you get to filter out your hand a little bit, which is good. It is a protection spell. The only thing is it costs 4 mana for this. Now, again, this is a lot of stuff tacked onto it, so it shouldn't cost 2 mana or maybe even 3, because we do see a lot of like flickering effects and stuff like that, especially in white, or blue has just flat out bounce effects. So the fact that we're going ahead, we're combining colors, yeah, this is interesting.
But this depends on it because it depends on power. It could potentially draw you and gain you a lot of cards in life.
Yeah.
And also, you keep in mind that, in general, most creatures have more power than they have toughness. So this will usually net you an upside in terms of card advantage.
Where are you seeing life on this?
Life?
You keep
Never
saying,
mind. I don't know why I keep saying life. I'm thinking of something else entirely. But drawing cards in itself is still pretty good. I don't know why I'm thinking of
I'm
that.
also illiterate, Kyle, so it is okay. Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Depending on what the deck is, like for Brago has a big butt but a small attack, so you wouldn't really want this on him. However, you could use this as something to kind of hose your opponent if they're using something like a Walls deck. Go ahead and do this. Make them just discard 3 cards for no reason. It's great for playing
Yeah.
the hand game right there. And
Or any number of their other creatures. So, like,
Yeah.
any one of your blink creatures can benefit from this, really.
yeah, I think it's something that's pretty solid. I don't think there's much more to say about it than it's a unusual tech card, but it's a tech card nonetheless.
Definitely. I think it should absolutely be a consideration.
Yeah, especially for all that life you'll gain. But moving on to my number 7 right here. It is another snow creature, and it is called Reinhorn, Kyle.
Aurochs.
Aurochs. So this right here is a, what did you hit?
I had the wave sound effect.
Yeah. All right, so this creature right here, it costs 5 mana, 4 generic, and a forest. It has trample, and it has a 3/3 body. Whenever this creature goes ahead and attacks, it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn for each other creature of its creature type that is attacking. There are other creatures of this creature type. They mainly came out in this set. And actually, he's a tutor that they have for this creature
Yeah,
type.
there is.
But the next effect is kind of what really makes this thing shine, is that for 3 mana, 2 generic, and a snow mana, target creature blocks target creature this turn if able. So this is, again, with snow mana, you need to have a snow land, so a snow-covered island, snow-covered forest in this case, to make this effect work. Otherwise, you're just getting the other standard effects. But being able to make target creature block target creature is much more different than actually being able to make them fight. This is something where you can go ahead and get more advantages versus the straight off fight, because again, let's say go ahead, you attack, you get some sort of bonus like this guy has right here. Being able to also make this guy grow is nice, but again, with not having a lot of creatures in this type, unless you're running changelings or something else, that effect's not really going to matter much. The main effect is the 3 mana one, and the fact also that this does not cause the creature to tap. It does not need to attack or do anything else. It can sit back and make creatures do its own thing. We're struggling today. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this card, the stats aren't really anything to write home about here unless you have other Aurochs, because there really weren't that many of these creature types made, and the bench was just not really that deep with these. You could make a good 60 card deck for sure. I've seen some
I don't
of those.
doubt it.
However, in terms of Commander, not really that applicable. But the ability to basically change around blockers and make it however you want it to be, that could potentially be powerful. So, and you also have to keep in mind that when this attacks, it just gives itself +1/+0 on its own.
Yeah.
So it's a 4/3 with trample, which already isn't too bad.
But the great thing about this is that you don't have to worry about this for your combat. This can be when your opponent attacks, you can have a different opponent block it. You can go ahead and make it so you're out of combat entirely if you really want to be that case. Or make it so like, hey, someone's got a Master of Cruelties out there, they can go ahead and make it so like something has to block this and they have to block it. It's the bizarre thing. Like you can make a whole crazy combo thing. And that's typically in red or blue that we see that effect, never really in green.
I still think you were a little hard-pressed to find good cards from the set.
Oh, you
but it's
shut
okay.
up. This is such a good card, and there's no reason why you would not like this card.
I don't know. I think I like my next one better. So going on to my number 7 here, another green card actually in the same
that
range.
ego over there, because that guy who can't read.
Hibernation's End. So this is a enchantment that costs 5 mana with a cumulative upkeep cost of 1, and I'll explain that in a second here. Whenever you pay Hibernation End's cumulative upkeep cost, you can search your library for a creature with converted mana cost equal to the number of age counters on Hibernation's End and put it into play. If you do, shuffle your library. Now, cumulative upkeep is an old ability that kind of got revitalized in this set and maybe a couple of others too, where at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, you put an age counter on the card, and then you, for each age counter that's on it, you pay whatever the cumulative upkeep cost is. So in this case, it's just 1 mana for each one. So it goes, 1, 2, 3, and so on.
It's kind of like a Yisan Wanderer's Bar.
Exactly. This is a bad version of Birthing Pod or
all of
Yisan.
that. All of it. It's honestly combined. And the thing that I don't like about this card, So it's a tutor, and it's a tutor to play,
Yeah.
which we don't see a lot of tutors to play. Green sees more of them than most, but this is something, it just doesn't do anything the turn it enters. And also, the
Right.
higher you put the cumulative upkeep,
The harder it is to pay for.
well, it's not only that, you're technically just paying for the creature, but from the deck, which is not a
Yeah.
bad thing, but this is coming out turn 5. How often are you going to want to turn like a 1-drop creature on turn 6?
I mean, obviously, this gets better with proliferate cards. However, it is, like I said, just kind of a worse version of a Birthing Pod or a Yisan. However, you know, the tutoring any creature from the deck straight into play is never
It's
something
not
to
bad.
look away from.
It really is not. And also, this is something that's going to fly under the radar. Would you waste a removal spell on this? I personally would
Probably not.
depending
Not
on what else
immediately.
is on the field. Like, sure, this gets up to cumulative upkeep of 5. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets a little scary then. But, like you said, the first few turns, it's probably not going to draw a whole lot of attention. So, very, very interesting alternative to some other cards that have gone on to, like, very, very, you know, competitive natures.
Well, other formats.
Yeah.
That's what you really gotta say. This is something you wouldn't really find in Modern or Standard. You
No,
would find it in
definitely not.
Commander. Moving on to my number 6. Now, this is a card, it's not really super flashy, but it's just kind of a whoa. My number 6 is called Wilderness Elemental. Now, this is a creature that costs 3 mana, 1 generic, and a Gruul, which is a red and a forest, for an elemental creature with an X and 3 body. So it has trample, but what does that really mean with that X? Well, this creature's power is equal to the number of non-basic lands your opponents control. So, yes, this is opponents, not opponent. So you're playing 4-player game, all right, 3 of the people are going to be using non-basic lands. How many non-basic lands are typically on the field on turn 3, would
I
you
would
say?
say, usually in any given game of Commander, quite a few.
Quite a few. So let's say, like, for example, each player has 1 basic, right? All right. He's a 6/3 on turn 3 with trample.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, and also the fact that it has trample makes the fact that nobody is going to want to block it as a chump blocker because they're still going to take a lot of damage for that. For being a little guy that can go ahead and be regenerated, brought back, reanimated, anything else in between, and with tribal support nonetheless, this is something that is a big card. It can make big plays.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it is kind of just a discount beater, which, you know, big dumb beat sticks. There are places for them in the game. I'm personally not a huge fan,
Sure.
but this can get very large very quickly in any typical game of Commander. So maybe that does make it worthy of consideration. Also, it's an elemental, so, you know, that's a pretty decent creature type to be supported too.
Yeah, I think it's something that's great. I never saw it, but also there's a lot of cards I haven't seen before. Have you seen this card before, Kyle?
I had actually, because I have
Oh,
one in my box
You
of cards.
do not.
I do actually. But playing Tempt with Discovery with this might be a lot of fun, because then it tempts people to get all the good lands out of their deck that then power this up.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's just one way of using it.
This is also one of the other cards too, where it's like whenever you have an effect out there, usually an enchantment or something else, where it's like, all right, when a creature deals combat damage, when a creature does this, when a creature
Right.
attacks and is not blocked.
At least you're sure you're going to be doing that
or a
damage.
creature is blocked. Like, there's a whole bunch of things out there that does that. This creature is an enabler for a lot of those effects. And again, being able to be a low-costed creature that you can go ahead and combo off with something like anything to make people put lands into play for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing can grow and be fun and stupid.
Well, going on to one more card here for this video, my number 6 on the list is going to be a Brooding Saurian. Now, this is another green card with an interesting ability. It's a 4/4 lizard for 4. At the end of each turn, each player gains control of all non-token permanents he or she owns. Yes, that's for those of you who are more familiar with like the staples of Commander, that's a homeward path.
Yeah, and
on a
that's-
creature.
Yeah, that's my problem with it. Why is this number 6?
Well, because honestly, this is one of those cards that whenever I'm building a deck with, you know, that likes like to have like a lot of green creatures in it, this is always that card that like barely doesn't make the cut, because I'm like, oh, like this could be good, but there are just other things that fit the theme a little bit more, so I always end up cutting it.
This is where you and me, with our divide on mana, like, see, for me, this would be maybe the 31st pick for me for this whole entire set, because if it's on a land, why not use it on a land? Because it doesn't really take up a spot. Like the 4/4 body for 4, it's a lizard.
Hey, I still the 4/4
It's
for
a
4
lizard.
is pretty good.
It's like the guy from Little Rascals. And I whipped out my lizard. Like it's not doing anything. It really does not do much, and it's just like.
But it addresses one of the big weaknesses that green has, which is other people stealing your cards.
No, it doesn't, because it has the land. You tutor that land, and green can tutor that land in the easiest
Or
of ways.
you could just play both of them. Or you could just not play the land because it's not as good as the creature version. I'm sorry, it's not.
So much better than the creature
It
version.
is really not.
It's all right. So Kyle likes to make sure his mana is fixed always. He doesn't like to use any tech lands. He does. I don't think he used more than 5 tech lands in a deck.
Somewhere around there.
5 is a high number for him. Me, I'll use like 13, and
I just don't see the point personally.
yeah, so, and this is why he would use the creature over the land. Now, personally, we're gonna end this bickering because we'll just let you guys tell us in the comments which one you align with, and I know it's not Kyle.
Hey, I don't care if people don't agree with me. It's just the way I feel about it.
That's good, Kyle. But you have to face the music at some point. And if we have a lot of people tell him, then he'll have to do that. So if we can get that to happen, that'll be great. Or you can just tell me I'm completely wrong. It's all good either way.
Yeah, either way.
But being able to go ahead and make it so that you can save your permanents from being taken or stolen, that is a good thing. Because if Will Breaker's on the field, which is a terrifying card, this gets around it. Because it's not an effect that you have to use. This is a constant effect. This is a triggered effect that happens on the end step. And it goes off without a hitch. So even if they go ahead and they take this creature from you, they're going to give it right back.
Any one of those kind of like steal your stuff based decks, just being able to put a stop to that is pretty useful. So this is one of those creatures like with a good stats for its cost, and just an incidentally powerful ability, which can be useful at any time.
Well, the thing is, they'd have to kill this, but with the decks that steal stuff, they don't kill because they take. They're greedy.
This also really screws up things for Zedru-based decks and things that like to donate to other people.
Yeah.
So giving them all back is actually not a good thing.
Gifting decks, yeah, it works out. But that is going to conclude our part 1 that we have here for Coldsnap. That is 1 through 5 coming at you next time.
Exactly. So until then, you can follow up on some of our social media channels. We have some Reddit posts pretty frequently. We've got our decks listed on Tapped Out, so you can take a look at those. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find us on all of them at the handle TheCardPool. So check us out.
Yes, and we also have our own subreddit too, so we're also in there if you want to keep up to any new news that we have possessing. So until then, I am Stu.
And I'm Kyle.
And we'll see you next time at the card pool. There's no way you're right about that creature.
I don't
Because
care.
the
I
land
really feel strongly
on a
about
land,
that.
it's so much better
play the
every time.
creature.
It's so much better on a land.